So how y'all doing today? Hope you're all doing good, fine, and well. I'm doing good. I'm doing very good. I'm very amused, to be honest. Very amused, because I'm sitting here looking at all these stories about the Jussie Smollet case. Is it Smollet? Did I pronounce it right? Smollet? Smell it? We know he likes to smell bungholes. I tell you, I smell bunghole right now, that's for sure, meaning I smell bullshit, okay? His name ought to be Smell It, and I smell crap. I smell bullshit here because this story is total bullshit. Have any of you heard about this Jussie Smollett? What the fuck kind of name is that anyway? Can somebody please tell me what kind of name this fucking guy has? Jussie. Hello, Jesse.
Hey, man, my name ain't Jesse, it's Jussie.
The fuck? What's the difference? It's not eh. Oh, okay. Well, what you had to say about what supposedly happened to you is bullshit. Not bullshit. Bullshit, motherfucker. This story's total bullshit. Jussie. What kind of name is that anyway? Jussie. Probably had some dopey hippie mommy. I want my son to be so different and unique. I'm not going to spell his name Jessie because Jesse is a white, patriarchal, oppressive male slave holder master name. I'm not going to give him a master name. I'm going to change and corrupt a master's name. I'm going to turn the E into a U to show my spite and hatred for whitey. So I'm going to call him Jussie. Jussie. Did that make him gay too? Do you think something like that? I'm going to give you a most interesting and unique name. You're going to be so very different. Yes, he grows up thinking he's different. Yes, I'm so different. I'm different. Well, now I'm just going to be different in the most different way possible and be gay. La, la, la. Yeah, whatever. Whatever, pal. So anyway, Jussie just happened to be going out for a Subway stop. So here's the story, all right? Here's what supposedly happened as I understand it. So Jussie just happened to be going out for a Subway sub, hoagie. What do they call them these days? Is it a hoagie or a sub? I mean, a sub, a hoagie. Is there a difference? I don't think there's a difference. But you have to call it a sub if it's from Subway. You can't call it a hoagie. All right, anyway. So he went out for a hoagie or a sub, whatever, at 2 o'clock in the morning. Who goes out for a fucking submarine sandwich at 2 o'clock in the morning, huh? Oh, I tell you. It's very odd. He was visiting some friend. I don't know. Either he lives close to the Subway shop or he was visiting a friend. I don't know how relevant that is, right? Of course, if he's visiting a friend, that would raise some other questions, right? Like he gets home from going to the Subway shop. Not home, but he's visiting a friend's house and he was returning to the friend's house that he visited and he's all battered and bruised. Wouldn't the friend be like, what the fuck happened to you? 2 white guys beat me up. Let's eat my sandwich. It's very odd. We'll get into that later. So supposedly, 2 o'clock in the morning, he's got a hankering for a Subway sandwich. I wonder what kind of sandwich he got, by the way. You think he got meatball? I'm sure he got something with a lot of meat in it, if you know what I mean. Maybe a sausage or something. Yeah, big, fat, giant sausage. I'm sure he has I'm sure he had a craving for some sausage. Oh, baby. Obviously a reference to his gayness. But anyway, so he goes out at 2 o'clock in the morning. Right? It's like freezing cold because, you know, it's Chicago in the middle of winter. Late in the morning, right? So it's freezing. What is it, 20 below or something? And apparently, the part of town that Jussie, did I pronounce it right? With the So apparently Jussie, who goes out that late at night, well, apparently, there's a lot of white guys in this part of town. And white guys who hang out at 2 o'clock in the morning, carrying around nooses, right, that have already been tied, right? I mean, I'm wondering, was it the fancy kind? I always wondered how they did that or what the purpose was. You know the kind that have like all the different twists around the single piece of rope. I don't know how they tied it off to make all those little, you know, twists in the rope stay. All the braids up, you know, around the original piece, and then, you know, so it'll pull tight. Well, you know how a noose works. But anyway, so there's a lot of white guys apparently hanging out on the streets of Chicago at 2 o'clock in the morning, carrying nooses and bottles of bleach and wearing baklavas, right? Okay. So I guess there were 2 white guys, and they recognized Jussie, so they just happened to run across a minor celebrity, right? And supposedly they said to him, they saw him on the street, I guess, you know, because again, white guys hang out on the corners of Chicago at 2 o'clock in the morning. without any fear of being attacked or killed or robbed, even though it's one of the most crime-ridden cities in the country. Supposedly, they recognized him at 2 a.m, dark, right? And he's black, so he really blends into the dark, right? So, but they recognized him somehow and said, "Hey, aren't you that faggot from that Empire show?" I've never even heard of this show, by the way. Is this show supposed to be popular? If it is, I mean, I've never heard of it. And supposedly, he turned and they jumped him, from what he says, punched him in the ribs or something and punched him in the face, or he got punched in the face, and then he went down and he tried to fight back, but they overpowered him. These 2 big white guys, they said they were white, apparently you could see the color of their skin. Because, baklavas, they don't cover everything, right? It's not like you can only see the eyes. And even if you could see the eyes and nothing else, you'd still see the eyelids. So, yeah, he knew the race, right? And these are white people! And they're not Russian. They don't have Russian accents. No, they're whiteys, right? They're white men. They're crackers, yeah. And so, and apparently, they beat on him a little bit. Broke a rib, as he said. He claimed that a rib got broken. Punched him in the face. There was a little scratch on his face. That could have been done with a needle that he just dragged across his cheek. I mean, it was nothing. And then poured some bleach on him. I don't know, maybe the bleach was symbolic, a way of saying, "You need to turn white, Blackie. Here's some bleach." Doesn't really work that way, by the way. I don't think skin lightening creams, if you could just pour bleach on yourself and then turn yourself white. I don't think skin whitening creams would be so expensive then. I mean, I don't think that Michael Jackson was spending thousands of bucks on skin whitener if he could have just gotten some bleach from the local hardware store for $5 and spread it all over himself, right? Although maybe he liked spending thousands of bucks. From what I understand, that guy he loved to spend fucking money. He was like bankrupt, apparently. But anyway, supposedly they poured bleach on him and then they put a noose around his neck and ran off and left him there on the ground in the snow. Okay? And then he says that, after a little bit, he kind of came to his senses, got up, looked around, and noticed he had a lynch rope around his neck. And so what did he do? He didn't go to the cops. Got up, and he still had a Subway sandwich, by the way. I don't know. I mean, if you just beat up a guy, right, a minor celebrity, whatever, poured bleach on him, put a noose around his neck, would you really have any scruples about stealing this sandwich? I mean, wouldn't that just be like adding insult to injury? Like, I just beat this guy up for being black. I forgot the best part, right? Supposedly when they ran off after they put the noose on his neck, after they beat him up, punched him in the face, supposedly broke a rib and poured bleach on him and put the noose on as they were running away, they supposedly yelled, "This is MAGA country, yo!" Well, what did he do? Well, first of all, he stole his sandwich. Now, this is what I want to know. If you're 2 white guys, black guys, whatever, first of all, doesn't beating up some black guy work up quite a fucking appetite? I mean, they can be pretty sturdy, right? I mean, these white guys beat on this black guy. They didn't make him hungry? That's a lot of work, They ran to get him. They ran away. They beat on him for a while. Wouldn't you take the sandwich? I mean, wouldn't you add insult to injury? I mean, you already put a noose around his fucking neck. I'm taking your sandwich too, bitch. Now they left his sandwich, and there's fucking CCTV camera footage of him walking home. Well, wherever the hell he was going. His friend's house, home, I'm not sure. It's not relevant to the story anyway. Not really. And it shows him on camera with the fucking Subway sandwich in his hand, or the hoagie, or whatever you want to call it. They didn't take the sandwich! What the fuck? And he had the state of mind to pick up the sandwich. If somebody beats you, you're not going to be holding on to the fucking sandwich. I mean, what is this sandwich? Made out of pure fucking gold or platinum or something? No, it's a fucking hoagie. It's a $5-6 sandwich. Do they still have that, by the way? What was that thing with the how Subway first got started and was kind of ruined their business? They had like the footlong for $4.99 or $5 or something. Boy, that was a stupid marketing decision, huh? Yeah, let's open our business and offer unrealistic prices for years and years just to put our competition out of business. And then we can't change the prices because people's gotten so used to this freaking price. Yeah, that's kind of what happens when you have a sale for like 10 years. And then you try to raise your fucking price and people are like, fuck, they want more than $5 for a 12-inch long sub. God damn it. I'm never going there again. Yeah, real brilliant marketing strategy there, Subway. You're hiring a pedophile to be your spokesperson. That was also brilliant. Anyway, so they didn't take the fucking sub. I'd have taken the sub. If I just beat the guy up, poured bleach on him, put a noose on him. I really don't think stealing a $5-6 hoagie, is going too much further, right? I mean, if I just chop some fucking guy's head off, am I really going to care about whether or not I steal his shoes? I mean, I've already gone so far already. Is it really pushing the line all that far to take his sandwich? So supposedly they left him with his sandwich, and somehow, after getting beat up and having bleach poured on him, he has the wherewithal, and the presence of mind to pick up his fucking sandwich and go wherever the hell he was going back to. And they've got CCTV footage on him walking. Well, he looks fine to me. He's walking normally. He don't look like a guy that just got beat up and got a rib broken. You ever had a rib broken? You ever had a broken bone? You want to talk about pain, baby? Oh, baby. He would have been limping, okay? He would have been favoring one side, all right? Believe me. He would have been, leaning and slightly to whichever side had been supposedly broken. So that was the story. Yeah. Total bullshit. I got some real problems with this, and obviously I expressed most of them in my telling of it. It makes no sense. First of all, Chicago is, it's mainly black people, isn't it? Not too many white people left in that city. And the ones that are left, they're smart enough not to go out on the street at 2 o'clock in the morning. All right? Now, something some of you may not know is that on January 22nd, of 2019, he got a letter in the mail, supposedly. I mean, he did get it in the mail. And it was a threat. Okay, now this is very, very interesting. So before his supposed attack, he supposedly received a threatening letter in the mail. And let me start by reading this story, okay, that's about this, because a lot of you probably haven't heard about this. It's from the CWBChicago.com. So, Smollet threat letter called enormous mistake, purported attack location, identified federal charges shortened. Okay. So here's the story. On Friday, January 18th, a letter was dropped into the mailbox in Chicago's southwest suburbs. The envelope was addressed in childlike scroll to Empire TV star Jussie Smollett. Jussie at Cinespace Studios, a West Side production facility that the Fox program calls home. MAGA, the acronym for Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign slogan, Make America Great Again, was sloppily written in the return address space. See, this is very unusual, okay? So clearly the inference here is that whoever attacked him later on also wrote this letter. I mean, it's hardly coincidence, I think, that he would get a letter in the mail and then a short time later get attacked on the street by people yelling this is MAGA country and they're not somehow connected. So, yeah, they're connected, all right. We'll get to that, though. So I'm looking at the letters right now, and it's, really weird. The one letter, there's childlike scroll, there's stick men. Now, first of all, I find this unusual. How did they know where to send it? Okay? How did they know where to send it? I mean, not a lot of people would know the exact address of where he's filming for his show, okay? That's number one. And number two, if some people do know, wouldn't a lot of fan mail come in? And how many of these celebrities read their fan mail, right? They have an agent or they have somebody, a secretary, to do that. So how did this letter even get to him? Now, maybe it was because it was a threat, so they felt it was necessary to inform him. And the letter I'm looking at right now, it's like something you see out of those, what was that movie, The Bodyguard? I remember The Bodyguard. This brings to mind. There were a bunch of letters to the chick that, he was protecting in the movie. Whitney Houston played the star, and the bodyguard that was protecting her. Anyway, it was a good movie. If you haven't seen it, you should. It was like little letters cut out of magazines and such. So somebody took a bunch of letters and words cut out of magazines and pasted them to a piece of paper, and it reads, "You will die, black fag." And there's a picture of a stick man strangling a smaller stick man. What looks like an electric drill being pointed at the head of the little stick man being, choked, but nobody's holding it. It's just, floating in midair. I wonder how that works. I mean, if the person who's choking you, who's holding the, what looks like electric drill that's going to be drilled into your head. Anyway, I don't know. I can't make a lot of logical sense. I mean, whoever wrote it is apparently a nut job. Jussie Smollett. And so it was addressed to him, says MAGA. So 4 days later and about 11 miles away, the letter found its way to him right on the 22nd. What? Boy, they got some really bad, well, I mean, true, this is the United States Post Office, right? But it takes 4 days. It was mailed in Chicago. This is very odd. So it was mailed from another part of Chicago to him in Chicago. It takes 4 days for somebody to get a letter mailed in their own city? What the fuck? Geez, no wonder the post office is losing fucking money. They suck. And people want to tell me that the government can do jobs better than the private sector. Really? Do you think that FedEx would take 4 fucking days to deliver a package in the same city that it was, sent from? I don't think so. Good God. All right, so something about the envelope must have raised concern. Smollet would later tell police that he and Empire executive producer donned gloves. Before they opened it and exposed themselves to a threat letter covered in white powder. Police logged the times 2:30 p.m. The powder was later determined to be crushed Tylenol, according to reports. It's very odd. But the letter addressed to Smollet depicted a curly-haired stick figure being hanged by another stick figure with a noose. Is that what it depicts? I see some gigantic, what looks like the alien, the Predator from those Predator movies choking him. I don't see a noose, but if it's a noose, well, then there's a clear and obvious connection. So the first question would be, okay, so you're telling me that first of all, they sent this to him at Empire Studios, all right? And yet, they knew where to find him on the street. So it's obviously, the inference here is that it was the same people, okay? But why wouldn't they just mail it to his home then? Wouldn't that be more threatening and would be less likely for other people to see it, right? I mean, if I was somebody that wanted to really scare you, wouldn't I send the letter to your home so that you knew that I knew where you lived instead of sending it to your theater? I mean, sending it to the company that you work for. And by the way, they must have known where he lived because they followed him from his house, all right, to the subway place, or if he was visiting a friend, I'm not sure about that, and was returning to a friend's house, then they must have followed him from his house to the friend's house and been lying in wait for him. So either way, they knew where he lived. That's a minor thing, I don't know. Sure, I could be wrong about that, but I think most people, if they wanted to intimidate you, would send such a letter to your home. Anyway, so to continue, using individual letters and words that appear to be clipped from magazines, the sender threatened Smollet with the anti-gay message, you will die black. Faggot. It says anti-black, too, but I don't know how pointing out that somebody's black is anti-black. It's certainly anti-gay, but anti-black, no, you're just saying what he is. The fag part, okay, that could be anti-gay, right? Because that's a pejorative. But anyway, so about a week after Smollet opened the letter, he told police that he had been beaten and kicked in Streeterville by 2 men who recognized him from Empire. Okay, so here's the other point. So first of all, so I'm not sure if this article tells you whether or not he told the police about this at the time he received it or when he was beaten. So did he wait? Or were police informed about this letter at that time? I'm not sure. Of course, the stellar journalists that are out there these days probably ain't going to tell me. But anyway, so about a week after Smollet opened the letter, he told police that he had been beaten and kicked. Right, Streeterville, yeah, I'm sure that's loaded with white people. They're all over the place there, right? So he says they poured bleach on him, and in throwbacks to the threatening letter, called him anti-gay, anti-black slurs while putting a noose around his neck and screaming, "This is MAGA country." As Smollet reported their attack to police, a multi-agency federal investigation into the source of the threat letter was entering its 7th day. Okay, so he did inform the police about what happened insofar as the letter after that. Okay. So, headed by the FBI's Chicago field office, the terroristic threat investigation is being assisted by one of America's oldest and most underestimated law enforcement agencies, the United States Postal Inspection Service. Whoever sent the letter to Smollet may have considered the mail to be untraceable, but they'd be mistaken. Okay. Well, they might be able to trace stuff effectively, but they sure can't send it effectively. 4 fucking days. Chicago ain't that big. Ay. So there are some new developments with this letter. 2 Lakeview brothers, and we're going to get to them, okay, who were previously considered persons of interest in Smollett's purported attack. And we'll get to how they know about these guys. I'll tell you, it's hilarious. Told police during interrogations last week that Smollett staged the hate crime, big shock, because he was upset that the threat letter did not get enough attention. We'll get to these guys. So In a conversation on February 8th, this is after the supposed hate crime happened, and the letter, before police met with brothers Ola and Abel Osundairo, it's the two Nigerian brothers. Yeah. A leading source within the Smollet attack investigation called the hate crime a false flag and said there's a direct line between the letter and the purported attack. Well, no shit. They both say MAGA. They're both telling him to die. They both have the supposed noose, although, again, I didn't see the noose. Maybe I need to get a closer look, but it just looked like some giant predator strangling a little kid. But anyway, in the same conversation, the source hinted at what has come to, this is not a whodunit, it is a how many people done it. Okay. So whoever mailed the letter made an enormous mistake. We were told federal charges are certain. By the way, there are witnesses. There is camera footage that shows these two Nigerians just hanging out on the street, walking around, footage of the three of them together, talking. We have an eyewitness here, woman that says she saw them on the street, standing on the corner. All I saw was three guys talking. They were standing right before the staircase that leads to Upper East North Water Street. I don't think there was any problem because it looked like they knew each other. And there are more twists and turns. Let's get to the Nigerian brothers, shall we? Ah, boy. So, these two Nigerians, great beasts of men, good Lord, who are bodybuilders and who work on the show. One of them, at least, has been an extra on the show. I think both of them have been on the show, or one of them is an extra on the show or has been. The other was a personal trainer helping him train. They were identified from Jesse Smollet's phone. So, the cops got a little suspicious right away because the story doesn't make a lot of sense. If any of them have half a brain, as myself and others do, they were a little skeptical of the story. Two white guys, 2 o'clock in the morning, they have all these accoutrements on them to assault a black man. And it just happened to be the same black man who somehow got a letter a week before in the mail calling him a black fag who's going to die. Well, he's not dead. First of all, it said you're going to die. If you're going to send a letter like that, you kill the guy. You don't just assault him, right? And pour bleach on him. And put a noose around his neck and not hang him, all right? So it's very odd. I mean, he sent a letter to his studio, not his home, so did they actually know where he lived? If they didn't know where he lived, how were they able to find him at 2 o'clock in the morning? If they followed him, why didn't he notice them following him? And why is there no footage of these guys on CCTV cameras? Why is there no footage of this attack? These guys yelling, MAGA country in the middle of Chicago. Come on. Really? What, like 97% of the people in that city vote for Hillary? We want more welfare. We want more Obama phones. I love my Obama phone. I want some government cheese. Yeah, you're telling me there's a lot of people running around Chicago yelling, this is MAGA country. Yeah, right. And white guys to boot, and they get their heads chopped off within 5 seconds of yelling that. Are you kidding? They get killed immediately. They got no problem killing white people in Chicago, believe me. White guy were to kill a black man in that city, they'll burn half the city down. But, white guy gets killed, you don't hear a peep from the media. So anyway, looking at the picture of these guys, they're humongous. One guy's got like these gigantic pecs, right? And the way that they were able to be found, and this is just it's shocking to me. First of all, Jesse Smollet, he ain't too bright, right? He doesn't seem to realize that if you use your cell phone, it can be tracked. If you're holding it on you, it has a GPS. They can track you, okay? They can look back and see what cell phone towers you were closest to, sometimes even if you didn't use the phone, right? If you have the location thing turned on. So, I mean, they can track your location, okay? And, of course, they can find out who you talk to. So apparently they subpoenaed his phone records, right, after this reported attack. I mean, I have no doubt they were already suspicious of the letter. I mean, I saw the letter. It looked like a 5-year-old wrote it. Mental patient, maybe. Maybe he was trying to make it look like some kind of autistic mental patient or something, right? Somebody who counts matchsticks really fast and accurately. Maybe he wanted him to think Rain Man had written it. But anyway, they were obviously suspicious, and when this attack happened, and the details are so far-fetched and just nonsensical, the kind of thing that somebody who isn't really in touch with reality might dream up, they subpoenaed his phone records and found a bunch of numbers to these two Nigerians, and then they asked him to supply them with his phone records. He refused to hand over his phone. but he gave them his, redacted phone records. This guy, it's great. He redacted a whole bunch of numbers, right? So all the cops did was took the numbers that he had redacted in all the calls that he gave them, because he wouldn't give them his phone. And guess what? All the numbers they redacted were the numbers of these two black guys, these two Nigerian brothers. So the cops are like, who should we talk to on this long list of numbers? Well, let's get him to give us a list of, his numbers, right? And see who he redacts, and then we'll contact them, because we've got the actual unredacted list that we got from the phone company, right? Because we got a court order. So, of course, he redacted all these numbers. They looked and compared. Oh, we need to talk to these people. Talked to them, threatened them, I guess. They talked to these two Nigerian brothers, and they rolled over almost immediately, right? Because one of them has a criminal history, long criminal history, serious felonies. So it didn't take much to get them to turn on Mr. Smollet. It's smelling real bad now. And they told a long, sordid story about how the Empire Star, from what I hear, he's a minor role in that show. But anyway, they told a sordid tale of a man who came to them and wanted to fake a crime. He said that he had a letter sent to himself, that he sent himself a threatening letter to get some attention from the media because he might get fired from his show, the crappy show that he's a minor celebrity on, and he needed to get some media coverage, right? So maybe he could spin a victimhood narrative into more work, or get to stay on the show, get some sympathy from the producers. So he sent a letter to himself. It didn't work. He didn't get enough attention. So he hired them to attack him. And he said, and these two brothers say that he had them work through the scenario. Essentially, they were practicing, right? Like you would for a big role. So they went through the attack again and again and again. I don't know why. Because apparently it didn't show up on CCTV footage or anything. So it never happened. So they just met up on the street, and that was it. So I guess what they were auditioning was the where to meet, at what time, and all that. He wanted to get every little detail perfect, right? Just like if he was practicing for a role in a movie or something, right? And he kind of is. I mean, what he's doing is make-believe, right? And so he hired the two brothers to meet him on the street at a certain time to pour bleach on him. And they were paid $3,500. I don't know if that was total. I think it was total. They told the cops they were paid $3,500 and that they would get another $500 afterwards, okay? And apparently right after this happened, right after they met him on the street, gave him the noose. I guess he didn't want to be connected to buying the materials. They poured bleach on him, gave him the noose that they, by the way, still had the receipt for. And the shopkeepers remembered him. Yeah, he bought this rope here. This is the rope he bought. And then they went to Nigeria for 2 weeks. So, like good criminals, getting out of town after the, crime has been done, they got out of town for 2 weeks, right? And for all that time, Jussie Smollett's running around, crying victim, appearing on talk shows, appearing on various newscasts with talking head pundits, talking about what a victim he is. And if you dare say I'm not a victim, you's a racist cracker, mofo! But eventually they came back to America because, you can only stay in Nigeria so long because it's a shithole. And they want to get back. They want to get back to where the money is, baby! Which I guess is in Chicago, training Jussie Smollett to look somehow ripped for his appearances. I've seen the guy. He ain't too ripped. And when they got back, they were immediately arrested by the cops and interrogated for hours and hours, and they gave him up. And they never got that final $500, by the way. Now, Jussie Smollett has his lawyer running around saying, no, this never happened. Anybody's saying this was faked. Oh, they're lying. And now he's running around saying, if it was these guys, I can't believe it. If it was them that did this to me, oh my God, I never paid them anything. They're just saying that. They're just making that up. I don't know why they're doing this, but if they really are the ones that attacked me, why did they do it? What? Okay, dude, the jig is up. All right, the jig is up. You're a liar. This is a hoax. You staged all this to get some attention, okay? You're not even on the same level as Kathy Griffin, okay? Kathy Griffin that has been, never was, loser, okay? Who's made her entire career on being a rabid leftist feminist and spewing man-hate. She's not at all funny, okay? And she's what, a D-list, C-list celebrity? You're like a D, maybe F-list even. You're like a total nobody, okay? You're like at the same level as that David Hogue kid, all right? You're just famous. Why? You're not, really. I don't even know who you are. Nobody knows who you are. And he wants people to know who he is, of course, right? So that's why he did this, right? At least partially, because there's another aspect to this story. Because it turns out that he is good friends with, get this, Kamala Harris, who is pushing an anti-lynching bill in Congress. Now, first of all, when was the last time somebody was lynched in America? What's it been, 50 years? How many people were lynched in the entire history of America? More people are killed by gun in America every year than have ever been lynched in the country in its entire friggin' history, okay? And we haven't had a lynching in America in at least 50 years. Yet somehow this is a problem? Of course, because the left wants to keep reminding you of the horrible evils that whites have perpetrated on the blacks and take ancient history and continue making it into recent history. Keep stoking those flames of racial animus for your own political ends. Yes, we're going to push an anti-lynching bill, even though nobody's been lynched in 50 years. And they just happen to be good friends. And just days after they announced this anti-lynching bill, he gets a letter in the mail threatening to lynch him. And then he gets a noose put around his neck by some white guys that supposedly beat him up and poured bleach on him in a symbolic way of somehow whitening him, saying that, black is unacceptable. You need to turn white. You need to be a cracker like us, blackie. So does anybody out there think there's a possible connection there? Because I do. I don't believe in coincidence at all. And by the way, this bill was also being pushed by who I think is a mulatto, trying to get his street cred, Cory Booker, a.k.a. Spartacus. Another deranged individual. Kamala Harris, who got her start in politics by sleeping with the mayor of Chicago. Like 20 years ago or something, 20, 30 years ago. Lovely. So two losers, has been, never wers, perhaps working in concert with Jesse Smollet, D-list, F-list celebrity who wants to move up the celebrity ranks and saw an opportunity to both push this legislation, which is really, in my mind, anti-white legislation, because it wants, whoever's pushing this bill clearly wants to vilify white people in the here and now over things that were done in the past. So an anti-white agenda is clearly part of why this guy fabricated this story. This is clearly a hoax. Anybody that thinks this is real, they're deluding themselves, okay? They're believing it because they want to believe it. And I think the other reason he did it, apart from his anti-white racism, his hatred of white people, to become more famous, to advance his career. I mean, he's seen all these nobodies on the left become famous in the past, right? Look at all these people that are listening to that dopey David Hogue kid. How many millions of people does he have on his fucking Twitter? I mean, he doesn't have millions of followers. He's certainly got hundreds of thousands. He's got tons of followers, okay? And what did he do that was famous? He reported on a school shooting. He wasn't even in the school. Victim. He was at school. He was at home sleeping, right? He heard about it happening, and he jumped on his little BMX bike, and he rode the 2 or 3 miles to school, and was interviewing kids that were running out who were already outside. That's his whole claim to fame. That and the fact that he's pretending to be anti-gun, or he's really dumb enough to believe in an anti-gun agenda, even though his daddy's an FBI agent and runs around with a fucking gun. So I think the agenda for Jesse Smollet here is clear, okay? And being a good little leftist psychopath that he is, well, with leftists, it's always the end justifies the means, right? The end justifies the means. He clearly believes that Trump is an evil, racist, homophobic Hitler wannabe, so anything I can do to get him out of power is good. Even if I have to lie, even if I have to cheat, even if I have to create this hoax. In the end, I'm a hero because I'm fighting tyranny, even if it's in my own head. I don't know the difference, though, because I'm a friggin' actor who lives in a fantasy land anyway, most of the time. But one has to wonder whether or not this was also done in concert with Kamala Harris. Because this anti-lynching legislation that her and Spartacus and some of these other Democrats came up with right before this attack supposedly happened, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. But one thing that's for sure, there's no doubt about it that this is a friggin' hoax. And I gotta say, the mainstream media, they lapped it up. Just like they lapped up the Covington kid story, right? Any chance to vilify Whitey. White cracker, yeah. Meanwhile, if a white man gets vilified, and what is it? Whites are 9 times more likely to be assaulted, to be victims of violent crime at the hands of a black person than a black person is to be at the hands of a white man. I mean, literally, 9 times more white people are assaulted by blacks than the other way around. But somehow, Whitey is an evil, oppressive cracker that indulges in racism against blackie on a daily basis. Really? Interesting. So they're 13% of the population, but they're assaulting us 9 times more than we do them. But they're the victim? Very interesting. Very interesting. Which is, of course, why they have to push these lies, why they have to push this narrative, because it's the total opposite that's actually true. Blacks are perhaps one of the most privileged classes in America. They receive the most welfare. They receive the most privileges in the form of affirmative action. And despite what the media likes to tell you, if a black person commits a crime, he's actually less likely to be shot by the cops than a white man, because the cops are afraid that if they shoot the guy, they'll automatically be accused of racism and they might lose their job and it'll just endanger their whole career. I mean, if the black man was really being oppressed, if white people were really the most racist creatures on earth, why are there all these hoaxes that are popping up? I remember that one at that university with the bananas hanging all over the place? And that was a hoax. It seems like every story you hear about is a friggin' hoax. So please, somebody tell me, if black people are being so victimized in America, where are the real crimes? Where are the real examples of victimization at the hands of a white man? Please tell me that. Somebody. Anyhow, Jussie Smollett was supposed to show up for an interview with police. He never showed up. Big surprise. I mean, they're looking at you as a suspect in a hoax and reporting making a false police report. Yeah, you don't show up if you have half a brain. And by the way, for those of you who might doubt the validity of the brother story, that still might think that, Jussie Smollett, bunghole boy, might believe he's being honest. Let me give you an inventory of the list of items from the Nigerian brother's house that was raided by police. So, a black face masks, an Empire script, a red hat, a red MAGA hat, and bleach. And they already have a receipt that the brothers gave them for where they bought the rope, and it's been verified that they actually did buy the exact same kind and type of rope that was tied around Jussie Smollett's neck. And all that coincides with the brother's story. Interesting. Still think that he didn't pay these guys off to stage a supposed attack. And also, Jussie Smollett's story changed a bunch afterwards. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Jussie Smollett isn't just a small-time Hollywood actor on what apparently is a crappy TV show, because if it was a great TV show, I would have heard of it. But he's also a singer and dancer. Well, several days after he had his rib broken, and was viciously assaulted on the street, he can be seen dancing it up on stage. And if any of you have ever had any broken bones, you'll know that several days after it happens, you don't get up on stage and dance around. You're not physically able. So, let me know what you think. Do you think that this guy is really the victim of anything? Do you really believe that white guys hang on street corners at 2 o'clock in the morning in Chicago waiting for some black guy, any black guy, but especially a black guy that they've targeted and know who it is, and they're lying in wait for him? They somehow knew he was going to go to a hoagie shop at 2 o'clock in the morning? Do you really believe that's happening? And he may or may not have even been at home. He may have been visiting a friend and returning to the friend's house. So they would have actually had to follow him from his house to the friend's house and then known that he was going to get, the late night munchies and want to go to Subway shop at 2 a.m. It doesn't make any sense. Makes no sense at all. Or the two white guys would be out anywhere in Chicago at any time wearing MAGA hats. And now that he says, oh my, if it was them two guys that attacked me, my two Nigerian friends, I can't believe it. He's then essentially saying that it could have been them. When he says that if it was them, I can't believe it, he's saying that then he's taking back what he said about it being white guys. So now, he's in a way admitting that he's not sure about the race of who attacked him. He's saying that it might not have been white guys, so he either lied or got it wrong, and he's kind of sort of acknowledging that it could have been them when he says, if it was them, wouldn't he have recognized their voices? Not only would he have not recognized their voices, but wouldn't he have known that they weren't Americans? I mean, these guys are throwing bleach on him saying, you in MAGA country! I mean, wouldn't it sound like, ooga booga booga, you in MAGA country! You in MAGA country! They're fucking Nigerian! They have Nigerian accents. I mean, some Russian dudes threw fucking bleach on him and said, you are in MAGA country! It sounded like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. Or all those Russian dudes from the John Wick movies. You would think that he would be able to recognize, oh, that's a Russian accent. Oh, well, that's not an American accent. I mean, it's so obviously fake. Such a bullshit story that anybody could believe this. My God. Well, let me know what you think, if this is real or not. But anyhow, let's move on. All right, spend enough time on this liar, this fraud, this fake, this phony, this psycho, Jussie Smollett. I gotta go through all this trouble to pronounce your name correctly. You're so special. Ooh.